So I am heading now to my book tour at Cuemars. I haven't been here before, but it's like a little bit of a sustainable lifestyle shop as well as a plant shop. And we got a lot of people RSVP'd, and luckily the weather's holding out. We could even see a little bit of blue sky. So hopefully the people who registered actually come. But I think we'll have a nice showing today. This is my second time at Shoreditch, and I love that they have a little plant station here. They have a nice selection for a small little shop. Hey! So which one's Charlotte? Oh, hi Charlotte! Really nice to actually put a face to the name. Nice to thank you so much for having us. This is perfect. So I'm here at Cuemars, and this is a really nice little courtyard that they have out here. It's a sustainable fashion and lifestyle plant shop as well. So I'm about to do a little book tour, a book junket here, and there's some people already here. So I'm going to meet them, say hi to them because they came early. Hey guys, it's actually the first blue sky day. I feel like I'm here. I kept on looking at the weather, and I'm like, please hold out, please hold out, please hold. Hi guys.
I'm Sonya.
Oh, hi! Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. Yeah, nice to meet you as well. So Sonya here was really lovely enough to write a commentary about my book, like a little jacket quote, which is so nice. And she wrote an incredible book called The Botanical Bible, and it just has everything. It has like a little bit of art. It has the history of plants. It goes into a bit more of the science, but you really weave that kind of like element of science and art so well throughout that book.
Oh, thank you. Well, very much like your book, when I got it, there was such a sort of connection in there, because obviously your background in botany and all the things that you brought to it, and where you live and all your plants, but also there was one statement in it, I can't remember exactly, but it's when you said, look around you, pretty much everything is a plant.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly what I was trying to say as well. If it's what you eat, and it's kind of like what the furniture is made of, and your clothes that you wear. So that was a real common theme. That
sometimes it's like a nuance, like it's just a small shift in perspective that like changes everything.
Yeah, and then your eyes are open.
Yeah.
And you're really looking around and looking up.
Yeah. Well, I'm marvelous. I'm so glad I get a chance to meet you. Yeah, this is fantastic. Well, thanks for traveling, and for those of you who are just like around the area, thanks as well for coming. I'm really thankful because it kind of feels like a little birthday party or something.
Weather, right?
Yeah! I looked on the weather app, which is never reliable, especially when you're in London, and like 4 days in advance it said it was going to be sunny today, or partially sunny, and I was like, yes. And then yesterday it said it was going to rain, and I was like, no. And then today it said sunny again from like 4 to 7, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, so the weather gods kind of like, lifted their veil today, I suppose. Anyway, I'll just give a short talk, and then if you guys have questions, since I'm almost never in London, it would be great if you have any, because if I'm going to sign books and you have like multiple questions, it's going to probably hold up the line, and I know people are so generous with their time, but I know other people are really busy and have places to go, and you have things to do. So, How to Make a Plant Love You. How many had it already for a little while? Okay. So did you guys read it already? Okay, so you'll get the sense that it's not really a how-to book, even though it says How to Make a Plant Love You. So I know some of the core people who like maybe do like watch Plant One on Me or do Houseplant Masterclass will probably be like, oh shucks, like I expected like so many photos and like how to tell a mealybug apart from a thrips, but it's different. And actually in the United States, it's put in the gardening section of the bookstore, which I think it's actually misappropriated in the gardening section, because for me it's actually a book on mindfulness, but how we take care of ourselves, the people around us, and our larger community through the lens of plants. And at a very perfunctory level, you could read the book and it will be about plants, and you could get a lot of the softer skill sets away from that, but also on another deeper metaphorical level, it's also about people. And I think the note in the front that Simon Sinek wrote in the front kind of kicks that off. And then Wade's foreword, which is so eloquently written. I don't know if you know Wade Davis, but he's an incredible ethnobotanist, and he's actually going to be coming out with like his 16th book or whatever. And a lot of his stuff is like really beautifully written, and has a real appreciation for, and poetic appreciation for plants, which I appreciate. I'm also going to call it Sonya, who actually wrote another book that you may know of, or may not know of, Botanical Bible, and it's so beautiful, so beautifully done. It kind of covers a little bit more of the history of plants, also with some of the art, and really weaves stories of like art and science together. And Sonya was so generous enough also to read my book in advance and actually provide a quote. So I just want to call folks like her out, because one of the things is this community like of plant people are so generous and so loving in general. There's some bad apples out there, there's bad apples everywhere. And you know, for somebody to actually take the time who's like busy writing and working herself, it's you know, it says a lot. So I really want to thank her for that. And I have her book at home. I would have brought it if it wasn't so thick, which means you get a lot of information in it. So, I encourage you to check her book out as well. But yeah, really, How to Make a Plant Love You is about that. It's for me, it's very personal. It was a very cathartic experience to be able to take a moment to actually write it. And I had to take a few months off of Plant Went On Me in between, I guess, December and February of this last year to this year, because I really needed to concentrate on it. It was a bit grueling in some parts. And one of the things that I really loved that I was able to do was invite the greater community to actually contribute and share their stories in the book. So we have about 70 different voices from people that you may know. Maybe some of the people are here. It was actually in Netherlands, and actually one of the people who contributed to the book was like, I contributed, and she was so sweet. She had her like little quote outlined, and she said, you know, one of the miraculous things is that, you know, she shared her very personal story, and you have to be very vulnerable in order to be able to share some of the snippets of the stories that people contributed to the book. And she said, you know, what was really wonderful is being able to read other people's stories and see how similar they were to mine, and realize that I'm not so isolated, that I'm not weird, or I'm not the only one going through this. And it made her feel not so alone. And at the end of the day, if that's the only thing that you take away from it, then that's so wonderful. And I really love that about, you know, writing and being able to connect with people and share human stories, and, you know, using the platform in a way in order to be able to connect with a greater audience, like, you know, people like you. The purpose of I believe, like, doing this book, and, you know, some of the people that I bring on and highlight on Plant Went On Me, it's about connecting that human story and keeping that connection really deep. Because I think as the trend, you know, matures, there's a maturation process, people will come to it. And I was explaining to somebody yesterday, having plants in your life is no different than yoga. Because you could do yoga for flexible muscles, and that's fine. You know, you'll get some flexible muscles if you keep on doing yoga. I mean, I still can't touch my toes, but they tell me. But also yoga could be something that's like connection of mind, body, spirit. You know, working on your posture and your breath is something much deeper. Setting your intentions is a big thing. So plants are the same way. You could have plants just for decor, and that's fine, it'll look good. But you could also have plants for a very deeper meaning. And I think that's the one that I really, you know, if I do anything, I really want to be able to tease that out and to connect people with that on a deeper level, which is just so satisfying when it actually happens and folks find that for themselves in their own way. So just kind of want to throw that out there. I don't know how it came from Cape Town in South Africa, but any other questions?
What do you make of the whole trend, like rare plants and really expensive?
Well, yeah, I mean, rare plants really expensive. I mean, again, going back to the Aroid show, because people were dropping like hundreds like it was water. I was like, God, I feel so grateful. I like bought those plants when they were $12 back in the day. It's going to exhaust people's accounts. And I do think I'm trying now a little bit more in Plant Went On Me to showcase kind of the endangered nature of certain plants, which I think is important. I get a lot of questions from the audience, especially in Thailand. How do you know which ones are wild harvested and which ones are not? Which I think is a really important question to ask, and I'm glad the audience is like intuitive enough or educated enough to actually ask those questions. And if somebody's not educated enough, somebody reading that comment will then be educated about it. But in general, like, there's a lot more hybridizing and stuff like that. So even if it was wild harvested, there's a lot more now where it's like, I'm going to take this and hybridize it. And to me, I do think that as consumers, we have a role in being able to keep plants in cultivation, because in a way, if you think about it, you're actually participating in ex situ conservation outside of the native habitats, which is really important. And being able to clip and trade and share, I think, is so wonderful. You have some different laws here in the Europe because you signed on to an accord not to trade plants without knowing their provenance. So it's harder to get clippings from botanical gardens now here. Unfortunately, in the US, we don't have that problem. However, you have the Netherlands and you have a lot more interesting plants. I went to some of your garden centers. You're lucky, okay? So stop. But you know, having those plants and the interesting thing, I think the infectious reality of like the rare plant, that plant hunter mentality, I think it's real. I can't really comment on it. Like I can't say it's neither good nor bad, but I do think that those folks who are looking and seeking for the rare plant should also be having the responsibility enough to question, where is this coming from? Is the provenance good? Is the seller reputable? What are those questions that I need to be asking? Because if he or she has a platform that they're doing this, then I kind of get the sense that that person should have a little bit more of the responsibility to be able to ask those questions to educate his or her audience a little bit more, and to be a little bit more mindful. And I you know, for me, coming from the world of conservation and sustainability, that's a very important part. Like, my whole mission is to get people more attuned to nature on a deeper level. I don't want to, like, you know, profess it so much that it becomes politics, but, you know, being able to just drip it in and just like let people make their own conclusions and assumptions, I think is important. You know, someone else may disagree with like the way and the strategy that I do it, but that's fine because I feel like I do it in the sense of what's more natural for me. Yeah, the rare plant thing. The rare plant, you know, in some cases it's not so rare either. So somebody says, they're rare plant. I kind of feel like a lot of growers are saying rare plant. I'm like, yeah, I see that in my farmer's market for like $5, you know what I mean? So it really depends. Is it really rare or is it not? So I think that's another thing. And it might not be, sometimes in some cases it's rare in the sense that it's actually endangered or extinct in the wild, but it's actually pretty popular in cultivation. That happens too, which is good, again, because I don't think we could rely on our botanic gardens to, you know, it's nonsense. Like, they can maybe have maybe they have a seed bank if they're lucky, you know, if they're well funded like you, but not every botanic garden is well funded, and they could have maybe like one or two, and sometimes it's just cuttings, you know. So the fact that the matter is, like, if we have a little piece of that and we actually share, which is, I think, like plant swaps and things like that, coveting something like that and not being able to share, I think is nonsensical. Because if you're doing it for the plants and the people, then I think that you would have more of that sharing mentality as opposed to like the hoarding mentality, I suppose. I guess that's what I mean by that. Do plant swaps happen out here? Did you guys go to a plant swap recently? Okay, and there was a big like houseplant thing on September 29th too. I heard that was a crazy feeding frenzy.
Yes, it was.
Yeah? Yeah. It was awesome, yeah. Some people couldn't get in though. I heard they're like, you know. Yeah, oh, that's great. It's like the Supreme store in the US. Like, there's a huge line of people like waiting to buy a t-shirt made in China. So you know, the craze is everywhere. It's not even in plants. So I don't know, like, before it like downpours on us, I'd be happy to sign some books, and yeah, and thank you all for coming. This is really remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to you. And you'll be getting a green thumbprint in the book. I was doing it in the Netherlands, and one guy said, I don't get that. And I was like, it's a green thumb. Come on. There, it's all good. Thanks. Thank you. Hi, what's your name?
Emily.
Emily. When did you start getting into plants?
When I moved to London.
Oh, wonderful.
My family
From
always
Australia, you said? Yeah.
My parents have always had gardens for food. I'm
Yeah.
half Italian, so it's always that. Yeah.
Of course.
And then it was what I
So
realized
when I said
was
basil,
missing.
you were like, okay, yeah.
And so when I moved here, I realized what was missing because I didn't have a garden for the first time.
Yeah.
So I started with a peace lily.
You're a little spath, a humble
And I
little
still
spath.
have him. Bernard's doing really well. He's moved from 3 different
impressive.
apartments. Anyway, I love the book. I'm this far in.
Oh, good. Okay, so you're almost done, right?
Not what I was
Yeah.
expecting, but it was even better.
Oh, good. I'm
That
glad.
mindfulness element.
Yeah, you know, I shocked people. I said like, cultivate green space. For me, space is meaning creating space. You know, for not only having a physical space, but creating space for people and joy in your life. So, yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you so much. It's really nice meeting you. Yeah, it is. Hi. How are
My
you?
name is Magda.
Magda.
I'm-
Magda.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually came here from Poland.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just for
Well,
this
thank you
event.
so much.
So
How long of a trip is that?
It's like 3 hours.
Did
Just
you a train? Did you take a train or
Airplane.
Airplane. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Nitha.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
Excited about this all day.
Oh, good.
And like my office is now in like a jungle.
Yeah. And everybody's like, what?
Yeah, everyone is a little bit like, what are you doing? And like, we're like, they're quite receptive. Which
Yeah.
Is
Hi.
amazing.
How are you? Lovely to meet you as well. What's your name?
Jenny.
Jenny. Nice to meet you.
This one is to me, which my name is Ken, K-E-M.
Okay.
I've started making the YouTube channel. YouTube videos.
Fantastic. Good. Yeah.
thank you for coming.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah. What's your name?
It's Gladys.
Gladys. Okay. Is it Gladys?
Yes.
Okay.
Very old English. name,
Yeah,
they
that's
say.
cool. So Gladys. It reminds me of gladiolas. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
My friend would always call me Gladiola.
Yeah. That's so funny. Were you always into plants?
No, it's actually I've been through a lot this year, and then my partner who ended up sick, so
Oh.
he went on chemo, and I was
Yeah.
like watching the telly on your own at home, and then I discovered you on YouTube, and then I followed you on Instagram,
Yeah.
and you don't know how I've recovered.
Yeah.
You never
Well,
know.
even when I shoot something and then I edit it afterwards, I'm kind of like, wow, that's a really, we captured something there. We captured like a real human element, and I'm glad to hear that it conveys in a very positive manner to you. So,
That's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
well, I'm very pleased. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna give you a hug. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Photo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that was the last book that I signed today. There's some folks still hanging around, but this was like my little, book event here in London. So that was really wonderful that I got to meet people. A lot of people so grateful for doing Plant One on Me, which is wonderful because it is such a labor of love. And it was really lovely meeting people in real life and seeing people's passion come through and everybody's individual stories about plants. So it was marvelous. So that concludes the day.